London, England. September 1940. The sky was on fire. German bombers came every night, wave after wave, turning the greatest city on earth into a burning hellscape. Buildings collapsed. Families were buried alive. Rescue workers dug through rubble with their bare hands, desperate to find survivors before it was too late. But there weren't enough of them. Not enough hands. Not enough time. Not enough hope. People were dying under the debris, crying out for help that wasn't coming. And then something strange happened. A scruffy little dog, a mutt, dirty and starving, wandered into a bomb site in Poplar, East London. Nobody knew where he came from. Nobody owned him. He was just another stray, one of thousands left homeless by the bombing. But this dog did something no one expected. He started digging. Frantically. Desperately. At a specific spot in the rubble. The rescue workers watched, confused. There was nothing there. They'd already searched that section. But the dog wouldn't stop. Finally, one worker grabbed a shovel and started digging where the dog indicated. 3 feet down they found a woman. Alive. She'd been buried for 16 hours. She would have died in that hole if not for a stray dog nobody wanted. That was the first life Rip saved. He would go on to save over 100 more. With zero training. Zero commands. Zero explanation. This is his story. Nobody knows where Rip came from. Before the Blitz, he was invisible. Just another stray in the streets of East London, scrounging for scraps, dodging kicks, sleeping in alleyways. No collar. No name. No one looking for him. In a city of 8 million people, Rip belonged to no one. He was small, a terrier mix with wiry fur, intelligent eyes, and ears that never stopped moving. Scrappy. Resilient. A survivor in a city that didn't notice him. When the bombs started falling in September 1940, Rip's world shattered along with everything else. The buildings he sheltered under collapsed. The garbage he ate from was buried. The streets he knew became unrecognizable craters. Most strays fled the city. Ran toward the countryside. Away from the fire and thunder. Rip went the other direction. Toward the destruction. Toward the screams. Something was pulling him into the rubble. Something he couldn't explain and didn't understand. An instinct that would change everything. The Blitz was Hitler's attempt to break Britain's spirit. Starting September 7, 1940, German bombers pounded London for 57 consecutive nights. Then sporadically for months after. Over 30,000 civilians would die. 1 million homes would be destroyed. The city became a graveyard. Every morning, rescue squads picked through the night's destruction. Looking for survivors. Looking for bodies. Racing against time because buried victims only had hours before they suffocated or bled out. But finding people under tons of debris was nearly impossible. They had no technology. No thermal imaging. No listening devices. Just shovels, hands, and prayer. Rescue teams missed survivors constantly. People died in the rubble because no one knew they were there. The workers were desperate for any edge, any advantage, any miracle. They didn't know it yet, but that miracle was wandering the streets. Hungry, homeless, looking for purpose. If Rip's story already has you hooked, smash that subscribe button right now. Every single week, we dig up true stories of war dogs who became legends. You don't want to miss what happens next. The night Rip found his purpose started like every other. Sirens wailed. Bombs fell. The world exploded. Somewhere in Poplar, a building took a direct hit. 3 stories pancaked into a pile of brick, timber, and shattered lives. By morning, civil defense rescue workers arrived. They started the grim process of searching, knowing most of what they'd find would be bodies. That's when Rip appeared. A dirty, skinny mutt picking his way through the debris. At first, the workers tried to shoo him away. Bomb sites were dangerous. Unstable structures, gas leaks, unexploded ordnance. But Rip wouldn't leave. He kept circling a specific spot, pawing at the rubble, whining. The workers ignored him. They'd already cleared that area. Rip started digging anyway. Something in his behavior caught the attention of an air raid warden named Mr. E. King. He watched the stray tear at the bricks with raw determination. Humor the bloody dog, King said. Dig where he's digging. Rolling their eyes, 2 workers started excavating the spot. They didn't expect to find anything. 3 feet down, a hand reached up from the debris. A woman. Alive. Barely. She'd been unconscious, unable to cry out. Invisible to the search teams. Sentenced to die in that rubble. Until a dog nobody owned smelled her through 3 feet of destruction. The rescue workers stared at Rip in disbelief. How the bloody hell did he know? Nobody had an answer. But Mr. King made a decision on the spot. That dog was staying. Word spread fast through the civil defense units. There was a dog. A stray. He could find people in the rubble. Nobody understood how. No one had trained him. He just knew. Mr. King officially adopted Rip on behalf of the Poplar Air Raid Precautions, ARP, service. They gave him a name, Rip, short for Rest in Peace, a dark joke among men who dealt with death every day. But Rip wasn't about death. He was about life. Night after night, Rip accompanied the rescue squads into the bombed-out neighborhoods. He'd clamber over unstable debris, sniffing, listening, using senses humans couldn't comprehend. When he found someone, his behavior changed instantly. He'd scratch at a spot, bark, refuse to move until the workers started digging. And every single time they found someone alive. The science of what Rip was doing wouldn't be understood for decades. Dogs can detect the carbon dioxide humans exhale, even through feet of rubble. They can hear heartbeats, smell blood, sense life in ways we're still learning about. But in 1940 it looked like magic. The workers started calling him the miracle dog. Reporters caught wind of the story. A stray saving lives in the Blitz? It was exactly the kind of hope London needed. Rip became famous. But fame meant nothing to him. Every night when the sirens wailed, he was back at work. Scrambling through destruction. Finding the living among the dead. He didn't do it for praise. Didn't do it for food. Something inside him simply wouldn't let people die if he could help it. A homeless mutt had found his home. And it was in the rubble. The Blitz didn't stop. Night after night. Week after week. Month after month. From September 1940 through May 1941, London endured continuous assault. Some nights were worse than others. The really bad ones, December 29th, the Second Great Fire of London, pushed everyone to the breaking point, including Rip. The dog worked through conditions no animal should endure. Fires burning all around him. Buildings collapsing without warning. Debris raining from secondary explosions. He breathed in dust and smoke until his lungs ached. His paws cracked and bled on the jagged rubble. He went nights without proper food, surviving on whatever the rescue workers could spare. And still he kept going. One night in October 1940, a bomb hit a school that had been converted into an emergency shelter. Dozens of families were inside. Rip worked that site for 12 straight hours. He found 7 people alive, including 2 children who had been buried together, holding hands. The rescue workers wept when they pulled those kids out. But for every life saved, there were losses. Sometimes Rip would indicate a spot, and the workers would dig, and what they found wasn't alive. He'd been right, there was a person there. Just not a living one. Nobody knows if dogs understand death. But the workers swore Rip's demeanor changed when they found bodies instead of survivors. He'd stop, sit, look away, then shake it off and keep searching. Because there might be someone else. Someone still breathing. Someone still waiting. The psychological toll on the rescue workers was devastating. PTSD wasn't a term yet, but they lived it every day. The smell of death. The weight of failure. The faces of those they couldn't save. Rip suffered too. He started having nightmares, whimpering and twitching in his sleep. He became more anxious, more clingy with Mr. King. The constant stress was breaking him down. King considered retiring him, sending him somewhere safe. But every time the sirens started, Rip would bolt toward the door. He wasn't ready to stop. Some of the other wardens thought he was being cruel, forcing a dog to keep working in these conditions. But King understood something they didn't. Rip wasn't being forced. He was choosing. Every night he chose to walk into hell. Chose to breathe the smoke and climb the rubble and search for strangers. Not because someone commanded him. Because he couldn't live with himself if he didn't. That's not a trained response. That's a soul. By the end of the Blitz, Rip had officially located over 100 people buried in the rubble. 100 lives that would have ended in darkness. 100 families who got their loved ones back. Because a stray dog nobody wanted refused to give up. Rip's success created something unexpected, a movement. The British military and civil defense started paying attention. If one untrained dog could find this many survivors, what could trained dogs do? The answer would change rescue operations forever. In 1942, partially inspired by Rip's example, the British War Office began formally training search and rescue dogs. They studied what Rip did instinctively and tried to teach it to other dogs systematically. It worked. By the end of the war, trained rescue dogs were operating across Britain. They saved thousands of lives, found countless survivors, became an essential part of civil defense operations. And it all traced back to a stray in Poplar who taught himself the job. But Rip's work wasn't just about inspiration. He kept going. Every night the bombers came, he was out there. The later Blitz attacks were sporadic but deadly. Hit-and-run raids designed to terrorize. Nobody knew when they'd come or where they'd hit. Rip adapted. He learned to pace himself, recognize different types of damage, work smarter as well as harder. The ARP workers treated him like a full member of the team. He had his own badge, his own spot in the shelter, his own rations. More importantly, he had something he'd never had before: a family. Mr. King became like a father to him. The other wardens became his brothers. For the first time in his life, Rip belonged somewhere. But belonging meant pain. The workers Rip served alongside weren't immune to the bombs. Some of them died. Others were injured and couldn't return. Rip grieved for them. Witnesses described how he'd search for missing team members, confused when they didn't appear. How he'd lie by their empty bunks, waiting. The war wasn't just killing strangers. It was killing his family. And still he worked. Even when it hurt. Even when every instinct screamed to run. Even when the odds were impossible. That's what made Rip remarkable. Not just his nose. Not just his instincts. His heart. In 1945, the war finally ended. The bombs stopped falling. The sirens went silent. For millions of Londoners, it was the greatest relief of their lives. For Rip, it was confusing. He'd spent 5 years with one purpose: find the living. Now there was no more rubble. No more searches. No more desperate digging at midnight. He didn't know how to be a regular dog anymore. The ARP disbanded. The wardens went home to rebuild their lives. The shelters closed. But Rip wasn't forgotten. In 1945, the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, PDSA, announced that Rip would receive the Dickin Medal, the animal equivalent of the Victoria Cross. The citation was simple but powerful. For locating many air raid victims during the Blitz. He was the first rescue dog ever to receive the honor. At the ceremony, cameras flashed. Dignitaries made speeches. Rip sat calmly, his ARP badge gleaming on his collar. The stray that nobody wanted had become a national hero. But to Rip, none of it mattered. What mattered was Mr. King's hand on his head. The smell of his family around him. The knowledge that he'd done something that counted. That was enough. That was everything. We're heading into the most emotional part of this story now. If you want to see how Rip's legacy continues to save lives today, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell so you never miss a video. After the war, Rip faced a decision that wasn't really his to make. What happens to a war dog when the war ends? Some military animals were abandoned, left behind in foreign countries, classified as surplus equipment, and disposed of. But Rip was different. He'd never been military property, never been officially enlisted. He was just a stray who wandered into a bomb site and decided to help. Mr. King made sure he stayed that way. When the ARP disbanded, King took Rip home. Not to a kennel. Not to an institution. Home. For the first time in his life, Rip lived as a pet. It should have been perfect. Warm bed. Regular meals. No more bombs. But Rip struggled. He'd spent years living on adrenaline. The constant cycle of danger and rescue had rewired his brain. Now the silence was deafening. He'd hear a car backfire and scramble to his feet, ready to work. He'd pace at night, unable to sleep without the rhythm of the sirens. He'd dig at the garden, searching for survivors who weren't there. Today we call it PTSD. Back then they just called it shell shock. King did everything he could. Long walks to tire him out. Gentle routines to calm him down. Patience when Rip woke up panicking in the middle of the night. Slowly, very slowly, Rip began to heal. The nightmares came less often. The anxiety faded. He learned to enjoy simple things. A sunny spot in the garden, a scratch behind the ears, the sound of King's voice. He was becoming a normal dog. But he never fully stopped looking. Whenever they walked past a construction site, Rip's ears would perk up. He'd sniff the air, checking, making sure no one was trapped. It was instinct now. Part of who he was. The dog who finds the living. Rip lived with Mr. King until 1946, enjoying a peaceful retirement far from the rubble and fire. But time catches everyone. In December 1946, Rip passed away quietly at home. He was surrounded by the family he'd found in the worst of times. King buried him with his medals, his ARP badge, his collar. The stray nobody wanted went into the ground as one of Britain's most decorated heroes. And his legacy was just beginning. Rip didn't just save 100 lives. He created a blueprint for the future. Before Rip, nobody systematically used dogs for search and rescue. It was considered impractical, unreliable, gimmick. After Rip, it became standard. The British military formalized search and rescue dog training based on what Rip had demonstrated instinctively. They studied his techniques, analyzed his behavior, built entire programs around what one stray had figured out on his own. Today, every earthquake, every building collapse, every disaster anywhere in the world, there are dogs. FEMA dogs in America. USAR dogs in Britain. Search and rescue teams in Japan, Turkey, Mexico, everywhere humans face catastrophe. And they all trace back to a dirty little mutt in the rubble of London. Rip's stick and medal was just the beginning of recognition. He was featured in newspapers and books. His story became part of the Blitz narrative, right alongside the human heroes. Schools taught children about him. But the most important consequence wasn't fame. It was the lives saved by his legacy. Thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people have been pulled from rubble by search and rescue dogs in the decades since Rip proved it was possible. The 1985 Mexico City earthquake. Rescue dogs saved hundreds. 9/11, search dogs worked ground zero for weeks, finding survivors and bringing closure to families. The 2010 Haiti earthquake. Dogs located victims that technology couldn't find. Every single one of those rescues happened because people understood that dogs could do what humans couldn't. And people understood that because of Rip. A stray with no training, no pedigree, no owner, just an instinct to help. Today there's a memorial in London honoring animals who served in war. Rip is mentioned there, alongside horses, pigeons, and other creatures who gave everything. But the real memorial is simpler. It's every dog currently training for search and rescue. Every handler teaching their partner to find survivors. Every life saved by a cold nose in the rubble. That's Rip's legacy. Not a statue. Not a medal. A tradition of saving lives that will never stop. The world Rip helped save moved on. London rebuilt. The Blitz became history. The generation that lived through it grew old and passed away. But the lessons endured. Today's search and rescue dogs are technological marvels. Trained from puppyhood. Equipped with cameras and GPS supported by entire teams of specialists. They can find survivors buried under 50 feet of debris. Work in conditions that would kill humans. Locate people faster than any machine ever invented. And none of it would exist without a stray dog who taught himself to dig. Every year disasters happen. Earthquakes, tornadoes, building collapses. And every year dogs just like Rip, inheriting his instincts, his drive, his refusal to give up, save lives that would otherwise be lost. The direct line from Rip to today's rescue dogs is unbroken. One stray in 1940 became hundreds of trained dogs in 2024. 100 saves became hundreds of thousands. One mutt's instinct became a global profession. That's the thing about legacies. They multiply. Rip couldn't know when he wandered into that bomb site that he was starting something that would outlast him by decades. That would outlast everyone who knew him. He just knew someone was trapped. And he couldn't walk away. That simple impulse, I can help so I must help, change the world. Is still changing it today. Every time a dog finds a survivor in the rubble, Rip is there. He never really stopped working. Here's what gets me about this story. Rip had every reason to quit. He was homeless, starving, alone. The world was literally falling apart around him. He could have run, could have hidden, could have survived the way strays always survive, by looking out for number one. Instead, he ran toward the fire. Not once, not twice, for 5 years. Nobody trained him to care. Nobody commanded him to help. He just did. That's not instinct. That's character. We spend so much time training dogs, teaching them commands, rewarding behavior. But you can't train a soul. Whatever made Rip special, whatever made him dig at that first spot when every human had given up, that came from somewhere deeper than training. It came from who he was. A stray nobody wanted turned out to have more heart than anyone expected. More determination. More compassion. More courage. Maybe that's the real lesson. The ones nobody wants might be the ones the world needs most. The strays. The rejects. The abandoned. They're not broken. They're waiting. Waiting for the chance to show what they're made of. Rip got his chance in the rubble of London. And he saved over 100 lives. Not bad for a dog nobody wanted. Not bad at all. If Rip's story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Every single week we bring you true stories of war dogs who changed history. Click the bell so you never miss one. And share Rip's story with someone who needs to believe in miracles. Thanks for staying till the very end, just like Rip stayed for the people who needed him. If this story hit you in the feels, click right here to watch the story of Sergeant Stubby, another incredible war dog. Or click over here for more legendary dog stories. See you in the next one.